All right, everybody, it is Mike with the post I finished something wrap up, because I did this last night, but I was rambling and incoherent like usual. So we'll try it again, try to be a little smoother and make more sense. We'll just start at the front and work our way back. Okay, so we come out right there kind of by the steering shaft and where the exhaust goes through. You kind of like see that weird looking ring thing. Let's see if I can do my right there. Well, that's the, both of them are heat shielded all the way around the pipe. One goes under the steering rack and up to our flex fuel sensor, our little bracket we made here. And the other one goes to the fuel rail. So it's just -6 because that's what the fuel hat was. It had 3/8 in and out. So we just used 3/8 to feed and return. It seemed to make sense. The lines were just old and crappy, so I figured I'd replace it all with my own stuff. And this is honestly the first vehicle. I had a little bit of this on the Phoenix, but I figured, I like to run the stuff that I sell and make sure I'm as happy with it as everybody else. So I am. I just love how easy this stuff goes together. Anyway, we feed the rail. You guys know I had to modify the rail because I got an LS3 fuel rail and it didn't fit this fast, and we're in the COVID apocalypse, so that things are just hard to come by, blah 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 blah. So we made little tabby boys and we welded that on, so that took care of our fuel rail. We got stock fuel injectors out of a 6.2. They're 30 pounds per hour. They're EV6, and we have EV1 connectors on our harness, so we just got little adapter guys. Oh, let's see if I can get one off and I'll show you. I mean, you can just look this up on Amazon, but yeah, so it's got a EV6 boy on one side and a EV1 on the other. So, and we had to put hats, like a little, I think like a 15 millimeter fuel hat to lift this guy up enough that we'd have any kind of tension on these O-rings. I'm not super happy about the way these O-rings sit, but it is fully seated, and I guess that's just how it works. I don't know if this is one of Fast's nuances. Like, I know they make fuel rails and things where you have to buy their stuff, and I don't know, but we're jammed in there. We'll check for vacuum leaks when it starts. Hopefully we're good, and if we could just rock out like that. Off the end, they always have these AN4 fittings with a Schrader valve inside them, so you can, this is just for the factory service tech to be able to check the fuel pressure. Well, we got a gauge. So I usually just pull that Schrader valve out. I have I sell these on, all the stuff's on the website, I believe, but this is a 4 to 6, so this just bolts onto the AN4. It's a female, and it goes to a male 6. So then we got our 120 shooting over to our fuel pressure regulator. We sell these guys again on the website. Drops down, so this guy will just do its job and regulate. This is basically the exact same thing that I have set up on the Phoenix, and it works just fine. We've had it up to 1820 psi, no problems. But there's no psi on here because we don't have psi things, but I'm talking to people about psi stuff. And it goes down to our flex fuel regulator. I'm sorry, our flex fuel sensor, which is funny, these little guys, so you can use these little screw-on, there's these like GM screw-on guys. I like these, they're pretty nice, but they also make push fits. They're just a tad bit cheaper. You'll see it in the backside. Well, I was just going to use them for all those plugs, but it wouldn't fit. These, the screw-on guys only fit one side of these short. It's kind of like there's two versions. Well, there's actually a bunch of versions of these sensors. However, this is the one with kind of the short stubs on it. There's one with, I have the one with the longer stubs on the Phoenix, and the screw-on guys work fine. But I just want to give you guys a heads up, so if you're using those and you'll know, like, hey, I'm going to run into a problem if I try to use just the screw-on boys. You can use clip-on boys, or you could just put a barb on here and you can just shove fuel hose. That was what I was originally going to do, is just run some rubber hose from there to there, but it was just as easy, probably easier to use the AM line, just because it really is easy to use. So the return kind of goes back behind the steering rack and then drops down and back. So both of those guys. So all this stuff is covered. You guys understand what we're doing. We'll probably set the fuel pressure, I think it's 48 psi, and that way you get a little extra fuel pump out of it before you start falling off. Although I don't know, if I think about it, depending on pressure, I think you probably fall off at the same horsepower regardless, because it's X amount of fuel. But I don't know. We'll leave that for engineers to think about. But it sure would be neat if there was like a centrifugal supercharger that would just kind of fit magically in that area over here, because there's lots of room there. If we just had a magical centrifugal supercharger to get us like up to 500 horsepower, that would be about perfect. Maybe 450, 500 in this thing would be ridiculous. Enough yammering. Let's get it up in the air. All right, we'll just start at the front where we left off. So it comes down right through here. Let me get you this side, this view here. So yeah, it just kind of runs down the firewall up here. It's difficult on my old eyes to see, and runs down through this side over here. It's a little tight right here. You can see it's probably within like 2 inches, maybe 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 inches of this bellow. But I have an aluminum shield that's sitting right there that's going to go in here. I just got to finish up doing a little bending and welding to get that guy, and it's just going to cover those lines right there, so you don't have, it's going to cover these lines right here, so you don't have to worry. So I have a aluminum shield that will fit right through here, and it just basically wraps around this exhaust and cuts it off from this stuff, so that will be happy and heat free. You guys do see that I already have it heat wrapped with some heat shielding. This brake line here ran directly on top of this all the way back, so I kind of disconnected it and pulled it out and over, and just figured keep it away from the heat source. It's not a bad idea. We go up to our filter here, and it is a 40 micron filter, so it's good to get the boogers hopefully out to keep our injectors clean and happy. And you'll see the return just kind of runs along with it. It shoots through here, over this section right here, and up and over the exhaust. It's double heat wrap there, although it's it's a good probably 6 inches away from the exhaust, and then it goes back over the exhaust and ends up, I'm sorry, did I do that right? So we go over, through, and then back over, yeah, and it ends up here, so you guys can see. I'll try to do a zoomy. So the guy with the silver, that silver anodized fitting, which is really just silver Sharpie, is the feed side, and the other side is the return side, and it just bolts right. It's got some E85 safe rubber hose that goes right to the fuel hat. Yeah, so that is the fuel hat up there. I still got some hooking up stuff to do on that, but I also have to wire it. Yep, so we got to wire that guy in, but that will take care of our fuel system. Okay, hopefully that was a bit more cogent than last night's ramblings. I got to fix the headers, so we got those parts in, so I might pull those guys out and start cutting and welding those guys just to be done with that. It's like super simple, and I don't have to think too much for me anyway. The other thing we got to do is we got to finish getting the whole cooling pack on the front, the condenser, the radiator, the cooling fans, and finish up putting the front end accessories on, so we can start running our heating and cooling lines, and we also have to put in the dash, so we know where the hell the dash and all the stuff that has to be hidden underneath it goes. So lots of things to do, too many things to do. I'm just gonna put in the headphones and rock out. I'll let you know what I figure out.